long morning it's been already.
It has been a little bit mental, hasn't it?
Well, I've been up since 3:15 UK time to watch start of F1. So yeah, it's been a long day so far, and it's only the middle of it.
Can't remember the last time I wasn't watching sport.
Yeah, there's been a lot happening this week, a lot, and I think before we get into kind of what's happened over the last 2 days, we need to go back. Let's reverse to sort of earlier on in the week, and Manchester United have announced a new stadium.
What do you have?
That's going to cost £2 billion.
That's just the stadium as well.
One question. You don't have any money.
But technically, you don't need any money to build a stadium, do you? Because the people who are paying for it are not Manchester United. So there's rumours started today that the sponsorship package for the naming rights for the stadium alone was 750 million for 10 years. So that's
okay. That's half of it.
That's a third of your stadium built off one sponsorship deal. And then obviously Adidas will put money in because they will be massive sponsors they are at the minute. I mean, they've got a 50-foot wide sponsorship on one end of the stadium. I'm guessing they will name all the stands, as most of them do, and that will get sponsorship. There's just, I mean, he obviously knows where the money's coming from, doesn't he, to even announce he can do it. So the money's coming in from other avenues. I mean, I'm guessing money's coming in from him, but it has to come in through other people, doesn't it? So you can't just stump up the money. He has to look like he's sourced it through other areas, doesn't it?
So they can source money to build a £2 billion stadium, but we can't source money to give people food in a canteen or former players £40,000 a year.
They can't. Well, I don't know how I feel about it, to be fair, because when it first came out, I thought this is a PR disaster, and it probably has turned out like that. But if you look at the state of the club, I'm not sure what I'd do. What would you do?
You'd find ways to raise the money. If it was a private business or not such a public high profile business, yes, you would make these sorts of decisions. But when you are a massive worldwide entity, as Manchester United is, the optics of saying we can't afford to give people lunch. I don't get lunch in my job, but I work in a much, much, much smaller firm. They can't afford to give £40,000 a year to former players that are struggling, that can't afford funerals, that can't afford care homes, that can't afford these sorts of things. It's just bad. It's just wrong.
It is. But if the club's got no money, it's irrelevant what the payout is, isn't it? We haven't got the money to pay for these things. So it's kind of, how do you not get rid of them? Because you haven't physically got the money there. And I know,
well, then you've got to find ways of raising money.
It's not great to get then turn around and say you're going to build a £2 billion stadium when you've just told everyone you're basically bankrupt. And I understand that, but people have got to look at it that Manchester United, as they are now, are not putting that money in to build the stadium. They're not going to the bank tomorrow and saying, I want £2 billion to build a stadium. Other people are coming in and putting that money in. So it's two totally different sources of income that we're talking about. It's just the timing of it has really not helped them at all.
No, because it looks horrendous. I mean, there's no way of getting around it. I mean, I've watched the whole interview with Jim Radcliffe. Honest opinion, it's a car crash.
Do you think?
He's open and honest, which I think is commendable. But there's a lot of things, there's a lot of questions he asks and says, I don't know the detail. Now, I get he's very, very high level and won't know all of the day-to-day detail. But if he's going to front an interview like that, he needs to be a bit more prepared, I think. I don't know. Just some of the answers were weird.
For every question that comes at you?
The briefed on all the questions 90% of the time. There's not going to be many of them questions that came as a shock to him before he's done that interview.
But All right,
because
yeah,
he's
I
conducted
agree
the
with
same
that.
interview with
But
two different people.
would you rather him just give you an answer then? I mean, I know you don't care because you're not a Man United fan. So if you're a Man United fan, do you just want him to give you an answer, or would you
And
rather
no,
him
you
tell you
won't.
the truth?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying he's wrong for being truthful. I'm just saying it's, the way it looks is bad.
Yeah, but
I
it does.
I
Well, the
don't know
whole
how.
thing looks bad, but if people look at the source of the information and what he's actually telling you, and you read it factually rather than read into it yourself on how you want it to read, the guy is telling you exactly how things are. He's telling you exactly where the money is and what they have got and what they haven't got. He's telling you why there's problems. And basically, if you want to ask why they took dinners off people, because the club have got £0 in the bank. Any other business would have to do that. It might look bad, but if these people want a job next week, they're going to have to give up the free dinner because it's just part of saving money. You can't cost cut only in places that don't affect people, can you? If you've got a cost cut, you've got to stop every outgoing that's not a necessity.
But should you not be cost cutting at the highest level first? It looks like from the outside, it appears they've
I've
cost
had
cut
this
at the
argument
lowest
about
level
50
first.
times this week on various social media. Everyone's reply, it just shows you how stupid people are, is we'll just take the money off the players.
Well, you
You
can't do
can't
that.
reduce a player's contract that he's already
No.
in. Marcus Rashford's got a 5-year deal. You cannot pay him a penny less than what you're paying him. You cannot take it off the players. How stupid are people? The only people you can
Oh no,
take it
yeah,
off is people
that's
you're giving it to where there's a commodity where it's not required. It's not in a contract. It's an unnecessary expense. What can you take off the players?
nothing
Nothing.
because they are
So the only
contractually
thing you
obliged
can
to take
do
that.
is remove people at the top, but you can't do that because you've just set them all on. That's going to cost the club money. Because all the people at the top of the company have got contracts, like they removed Dan Ashworth. So if we want to say, right, well, we've got 2 senior executives that we don't think we need, we're going to pay £2 million to get rid of them. That's £2 million we haven't got to pay to
True.
get these people out. So the only thing you can do, let's just take it in a normal context. You lose your job tomorrow. The first thing you're going to do is cut your outgoings. Any unnecessary outgoings. You get rid of your TV, you get rid of your phone bill, you get rid of any unnecessary things that you're paying, your gym membership. That's all they're doing. Doing what every other human being would do. But everyone's looking at it because Manchester United is a global brand and saying we should be able to give people free dinners. Well, first of all, why do they get free dinners? And second of all, why should they be entitled to it?
No, you're right. I don't think they should be entitled to his soul. And say, I don't get it. You didn't get it when you worked. You now don't.
You get free dinner now.
You pay for it yourself.
I think everyone's looking at it from
less, I suppose, less from a actual standpoint and more from a standpoint of this is a club that brings in hundreds of millions of, probably close to £1 billion a year in terms of turnover and revenue. You want to be the biggest club in the world. You are one of the biggest clubs in the world, but yet the club itself, and I'm not saying him, have allowed itself to get into a situation where, like he says, they were bankrupt by November if they hadn't have put any money in, and the £300 million he's put in is gone.
People have got to see that that's not him.
No, oh, absolutely, it's not his fault. No.
So if people are annoyed and angry at the club, aim it at the people who've caused this, and that's the Glazers. Now, people say they do and they protest, whatever. You know, if that's how you get your anger across to them, fine. They don't give a flying fuck that you protest. Let's just be honest. You can march up and down as many streets as you want with flags. The Glazers do not give a shit. They just turn the telly off and carry on living their life. They don't care. Right? If you want to hit them, you need to hit them in the pocket. But the only way you're going to do that is to send the club under, basically, because you're going to have to stop paying going to games. There's no way of getting the Glazers out by protesting. We've been doing it for years, and when have they ever come out and looked like doing anything like leaving? Never.
No, like I said, they just disappeared. They just go to ground and just
disappear. The only way you could possibly get the Glazers out is for everyone to buy a season ticket next season and no one turn up.
Yeah, you'd have to sell out, so the revenue is not affected of the club.
So you've got to hit yourself in the pocket. So does it matter that much that that's what you're willing to do? Probably not for most people. So there's nothing you can do then, is there? You're stuck with them. But don't take it out on the guy now that's openly trying to put it right. He may fail, and if he does, then fine. He'll get his comeuppance, won't he? But right now, he's doing everything he can to put the club on a sure footing so that 10 years from now, this shit has all been dealt with. he can't help what's gone before him. He can only
no,
deal with what's
absolutely.
happening. And people might
when I
not
said-
like it, but it's got to happen.
And when I say the interview's a car crash, I don't mean for him personally. I mean it's the situation that makes it look like a
Oh, the
car
club's
crash.
in a total dire. But how many times we've said that on here? The club is fucked, mate. It's totally in. It's a wreck.
Yeah, and it just looked bad. If I'm honest, the whole thing
You
just
can't.
looked bad.
It's no good to everyone saying, "Well, the club's totally knackered, so we'll just accept it." You've got to do something about it. And these decisions are decisions that nobody previous has wanted to take because they want everyone to like them again. We're back to this, aren't we? Where we want to be the nice guy in the room, but somebody's now got to stand up and say, all this has got to stop. Like these stupid contracts have got to stop. You know, getting these players out is, you know, it's going to cost. What do you say? It's going to cost us 80 million this summer to pay the bills for the players that are already there.
Yeah,
And when he lists the names, you're just thinking, wow, that's a summer transfer budget on basically below average crap, isn't it?
yeah, that you're now just covering previous.
That we're now covering. That's not his fault.
No, absolutely not.
It's, you know, but he's got to deal with it. He's got to front it up for one, which is what he's doing, and he's going to have to make some tough decisions. They're not all going to be the right decisions. Maybe, you know, I mean, Gary Neville was talking about taking the 40,000 off the old players.
Yes, so that's your 70s, 80s players.
Going towards it is a bad decision, but would they rather see the club go under? Because they're not going to get the money either way. If he doesn't take it off them, the club will go under and they won't get the money. So either way, it's going to stop, isn't it?
But the bit of that was bad was Gary Neville made a really good suggestion of just do a bit of charity work, get a players' dinner or something. And the answer of, oh, well, we didn't really think of that. It was like, you didn't really care.
Yeah,
You've just cut it.
You just cut it. Yeah. I mean, I've never been a footballer, but I can't imagine them footballers sitting in that canteen and not thinking to themselves, should we just put 100 grand into a kitty?
True.
I mean, you've got 22 footballers in that room who would have to put in £5,000 a piece.
About an hour's work.
£100,000. So that would pay the 40 grand, and that would pay probably for everyone's dinner for a year for the staff in the building. What would it be to them? 5 grand. So why don't somebody give the players some flack? They're the ones taking 85% of the money generated at Old Trafford. Right? They're not worth it for a start, and even if they were worth it, can't they give a little bit back?
No, fair point. That is a very valid argument.
Marcus Rashford's not there, but Casemiro's taking what, 300 grand?
He likes giving food to people as well. He's good at it.
You're not telling me that he can't put 50 grand of a week's wage into a kitty and say that's everyone's dinner's covered for this year. And Bruno can't step up and say, well, there's 10 grand, that'll cover something. And Harry Maguire can't. Solves the problem. Makes the players look good. Makes everyone else look good.
If this had happened 20 years ago and you'd got the old guard of players that cared about the clubs that they played for, and I don't just mean at Manchester United, I mean at Liverpool, I mean at Arsenal, I think there's more chance of it happening because
it wouldn't have happened. Because I mean, you've probably watched the same programs I've watched, that, you know, where Roy Keane's come out and said about, you know, signing the match shirts at the end of the game for charity, and some of the players didn't turn up to do it, and the absolute how much he teared into them for not showing up just to sign some charity shirts so they could sell them. They wouldn't have let this happen. They would have walked in the room and dealt with it as professionals.
That's what I'm saying. So
I mean,
when you've got players that cared about the club they played for, this wouldn't have happened. But now you've got people just play because they're at a club.
Yeah,
the club doesn't mean anything to them.
People look. There's people at Old Trafford who it's just a job to them. They just get paid well to do it. But at the same time, they get fed by these people. They get, you know, looked after by these people. You're not telling me that at some point somebody in that dressing room hasn't had the gumption to say, should we just chip in?
It would have been a perfect ideal world, but unfortunately we don't live in a perfect ideal world. We live in a self-centered world where the players are probably thinking, we've not caused it, why should it hurt us?
Well, it's the same again, isn't it? It's like, do they want... They look bad week in, week out currently. One way of taking the pressure off them for a few weeks would have been to do something like that, wouldn't it? Because straight away, everybody looks at them and says, at least they're sticking together, at least they're a team, they're working together. Everyone just looks at them now and just thinks they're self-centered prats, don't they? Because they just don't
Yeah.
obviously give a shit at all.
Yeah, it's not been a great week in the world of Manchester United, I don't think, and losing to Leicester this afternoon would only compound that worse. Although you did then go through in the UEFA Cup. That's the
Well,
wrong name, but I'm going to
I'm
revert
going
back
to
to the
say
UEFA
something
Cup.
now that's probably going to come back to bite me in about 7 hours' time, 8 hours' time, whatever it is. I think we've been much improved over the last 3 games. I thought the Fulham game was very nothing. I think Arsenal and the two for an hour against Sociedad in the first game, against Arsenal, and the other night against Sociedad. I mean, the referee was absolutely the most atrocious thing I've ever seen on a football pitch. But we looked so much more in control. We didn't look like conceding goals every attack. We're still way shy of scoring enough goals to win any competition. But we looked structured and we looked at least organised. It's almost like the time he's had on the training pitch is now finally starting to see at least a bit of balance to the team. He's picking the same lads week in, week out. Most of them shouldn't be there, but that's irrelevant, not his problem again. And at least looks like there's some semblance of organisation to the team. And like I said, we don't look like people could just run riot and score 6 or 7 against us. Although we do play City in about 3 weeks. So.
And you confused me with one part there, so I just checked it. You said 7 or 8 hours playing Leicester. We're at it again. Sunday night, 7 p.m. kickoff. What?
Yeah, well, it confused me this morning because I looked at this thinking, oh, we'll play at 12:30 because I've got a bit of a busy day tomorrow. And I was thinking I might watch it tonight so that I don't have to try and fit it in the morning. And I can't because it's on at 3 a.m. So it's not 7 o'clock. Is it?
On a
7
Sunday?
o'clock kickoff?
Yeah.
On a Sunday?
Yep,
And I'm
we're doing
like,
it again.
I'm looking at it thinking, is this Saturday night then? Have I got this wrong again? Am I on an 8 o'clock kickoff Saturday night? And I'm thinking, when's this? Is this now a regular thing that we've got?
Well, I'm guessing the reason for it today is because of the League Cup final is the 4:30 kickoff, and they'll not want another game going on while the League Cup final's on. But just play it earlier.
Right. Are Tottenham not on at the same time as the League Cup?
No, so they kick off at 1:30 with Arsenal and Chelsea. So Fulham and Chelsea. So we've got 2 games happening in London, 3 games happening in London over the afternoon, but 2 at the same time. But yeah, they've moved all of the fixtures away from the League Cup final so they don't clash.
Right. Interesting idea.
It
Could they
is.
not have played the League Cup final Saturday night at Wembley when everyone can get there and get back and just left the other fixtures alone?
Potentially was already another game yesterday at Wembley. Was the Women's League Cup final played there? I don't know this for definite. I'm guessing.
I mean, that's irrelevant, mate, 'cause that's not really a game of football. That's just a travesty on TV.
And it was played at Pride Park. So that's not a reason. Yes, they could have played it Saturday, but again, they don't want it to interfere with the TV rights for the Premier League. So I'm guessing they've just kept it all
Just
separate, which is why
inconvenience everybody else in the world who's now got to be. So Leicester have got, Man United have got to be in Leicester. So Man United fans have got to be in Leicester until roughly 9:30 tonight on a Sunday.
It's just stupid. I mean, at least it's not as bad as the other week when it was Newcastle playing. I can't remember who they were traveling halfway around the country.
But like I say, briefly touched on that. The referees the other night. What was his problem? Was he just like?
I mean,
is he short of a few quid? Does he need to be famous or something?
it benefited you, but there was 3 penalties given in that game and then 1 overturned. So we had 4 awarded in total.
It benefited us on the decisions, but when you see something and you just think, some of the other yellow cards were just ridiculous. He was just walking around with yellow cards on 24/7, just brandishing it like I don't know what. I'm surprised fans weren't getting booked at one bit.
Second penalty that you actually got, so the 3rd penalty of the game.
Is that the tackle on Dog?
No, that's the one that he overturns.
No, it's the other one as well, isn't it? Is it Xerxes?
So your first penalty, is it Dorgu that actually wins the first penalty?
Where he knocks it past him and they just sort of bump into each other.
Yeah, it's that exact one. The defender stands still, so doesn't make a tackle, doesn't make himself wider, doesn't do anything.
It's not a penalty.
How is that a foul?
Not a penalty.
How is standing still an offence?
But we're back to this again, aren't we? The referee's decided it's a penalty. And I don't know where we go because VAR's of no use at all because because there is contact, VAR basically say, well, there's nothing I can do, rather than feeding the referee the information that he needs. So the referee doesn't go and relook at it, does he?
It's ridiculous.
It's, what again, VAR needs to say to him, what have you seen? Well, blah, whatever. Well, that's not what's happened. Look, go and have a look at it again, because we don't think that's what's happened. You may need to look at it and go and have a look yourself. But VAR have gone, well, he's touched him in the box, there's nothing I can do. So it's definitely a penalty. So they've not helped the referee in any way, have they? They've just gone, we can't overturn it. But you don't need to overturn it. Let the referee overturn it.
My concern with that, just in general, from a refereeing standpoint, is what you're saying is if I kick it past a player and run into him, I get the foul. How can that be?
Yeah. But we've gone into all this. I mean, how many penalties do you see at the minute where the player's running towards the defender and he sort of puts his leg? I mean, their penalty. The guy comes from behind Delit, climbs through Delit, put his foot in front of Delit, who then kicks the back of his foot. How does Delit foul him when he doesn't even know he's there? I mean,
I didn't.
He's not got the ball. He hasn't won the ball. He's just basically put his foot in front of Delit. I mean, how is it not a foul on Delit? Because he hasn't won the ball and he's basically obstructed him or put his foot in front of him.
But then your first penalty's similar again. None of them are penalties for me. It's all nonsense.
But VAR becomes irrelevant because there's contact. Basically, what VAR is saying is, well, we can't get involved because there's contact, so it can't be clear and obvious. But feed the referee the information that's there that we can all see. Tell him what has happened. And if he doesn't change his mind, then it's on the referee's head. But it doesn't. They just go, was contact, so we can't do anything. Oh, fucking fantastic. What a waste of time that is then.
The third penalty to me is a clear and obvious error. The defender doesn't do anything. He just stands still. And the United player runs at him and falls over.
An absolute car crash of refereeing, to be fair.
The red card is pathetic.
We've got another one. He just wants to make a name for himself. And then commentators on saying, oh, one of the best referees in Europe. And I'm thinking, well, if he's best referee in Europe, we are fucked, aren't we? He is an absolute nightmare, this guy. Yeah, it just ruined a potentially decent game, really, didn't it?
And then the other massive refereeing decision in Europe. Did you watch the Madrid penalty shootout?
You see, I'm going to shock you now. I have watched every Champions League game except for Arsenal PSV because it was 7-1, wasn't it? And
yeah, there was no
point. I didn't have an hour and a half of time to waste watching that. So yeah, I've watched them all. Everyone.
So go on then. The Alvarez penalty that he's ruled out for the double touch.
Well, it's right because he does double touch it. When did the rule come in where you just avoid the penalty and fucking carry on? I've never even known that this was a thing.
Yeah, once you double touch it, it's voided. You can't retake it.
Why?
Because it's a double touch. It's an offence. It's a foul. So if you were to do that in a 90-minute football match, the free kick would go the other way. Because it's an offence.
But if you take the penalty and double kick it during the game, you get to retake it.
No, it's a foul. It's a free kick the other way.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
Well, I could be wrong.
I thought it was
a free kick the other way.
Well, I didn't know that. Because basically what happened was we were watching the penalties and it was 2-2. And then they decided it was 2-1. And I expected the Real Madrid player to stop and the Atletico player to come back up and retake it. And Real Madrid carried on. And I thought, well, what's going on here? No one seemed to really know what was happening.
The fans didn't.
It'd gone from 2-2 to 3-1 in one penalty. And everyone were like, well, what the hell has happened?
Yeah, I don't think the fans had the faintest idea of what was happening.
Fantastic. No, because no one announced it to anyone. I mean, I'm watching it on TV and even I didn't know. It was the guy just went, the commentator said it like it was like, if the keeper will come off his line, they're going to retake it. It used a word, and I thought, oh, there must be an infringement. They're going to retake it, and it just carried on. And I was like, well, what the fuck happened? And it just and it was like, oh, it's been cancelled. And I'm like, surely there needs to be some discussion here about what's happening.
My bigger concern is the aftermath of it. So UEFA have now come out and said they're going to re-look at the rule just because people are upset by it. This rule isn't new.
This just annoy you again. You've made a rule. Have the guts to stand by it. It's a stupid rule, but isn't that the most severe punishment for the least effective little thing in the world?
But actually, if you look at this specific incident, where the contact is, it lifts the ball and potentially aids him. Now, it could have hindered him because it could have gone over the crossbar, but it lifts it into the roof of the net for him.
What
So
I'm
there is
looking
a
at is
potential
crime and
advantage.
punishment. You've double kicked a ball, and you technically lose a penalty shootout because you have a goal took off you. There's only 5 chances to score, and you get one of them took off you for double kicking a ball. Yet you can do a million other things in a game, and you get nowhere near that severity of punishment. It's a little bit severe, I think, to say you've double kicked it, we're chalking your penalty off. You
But is
surely
it
get
fair on the opposition team that haven't made the mistake for him to get another go?
I'm saying he hasn't really done anything, has he? It's not like he's run up and headbutted goalkeeper and said, well, you can't. You know, if you have a player sent off in real time, you have 10 penalty takers against 11 penalty takers. You get to fill in for that guy.
Other way around, they drop one.
What?
They have to nominate a player not to take a penalty on the other team. But
Well, yes. So basically, you've had a guy sent off in the game, and you get 0 punishment in a penalty shootout. Yeah, it double kicks it, which is nothing to anyone. No one cares, and you get the penalty just wiped away. Like it just seems so severe. It's in the Champions League, whatever, quarter final, last 16 tie, whatever.
Last 16.
It just seems such a severe punishment for nothing at all. He just slipped. He double kicked it. Just stand him up and say, you need to retake that, mate. That's a legal penalty. And if goalkeeper comes off his line, you get to retake it.
True.
You don't automatically say, well, you come off your line, so it's a goal to them. You just retake it. So,
but should we actually? That would stop this whole goalkeeper movement. If you're off your line when you save it, it's a goal.
It's a goal. But the 2 punishments match then, don't they?
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me because the goalkeeper can cheat and get away with it technically because he could save it and then gets another go at it. The guy slips. He's not intentionally done it, has he? Very unlikely anyway. The goalkeeper's intentionally come off his line because he has a choice not to move, and he gets away with it. It just seemed very severe for what happened, and I think the game was over before I even realised what had happened and how we got to the situation. Real Madrid celebrated, and I'm thinking, I don't know what's happened. I mean, it was a great game, by the way.
Yes, it was.
If you need to advertise the Champions League, that's the game, not some of the other ones I watched, which were horrendous. Inter Milan, Feyenoord. Some guy on Twitter told me that Inter Milan are one of the best teams in Europe currently. I mean, I don't even think they're the best team in Milan. Never mind in Europe. They're fucking absolute rubbish. I mean, I didn't even know what to say to him. I just apologised for him for being stupid. It was, but yeah, Madrid against Atletico was absolutely unreal.
And this is one of my other issues with the new format that we've got. So Liverpool won the league, ended up playing Paris Saint-Germain, fantastic tie, but we've now lost one of the best sides in it. And we've got...
I'm still yet to see what this new format has brought to the tournament that we didn't have before, if I'm honest.
It's brought randomness and it's brought clubs to a higher level.
It's brought more games, which we didn't need. It's brought an extra round of 16, which is not really a round of 16. It was absolutely the most dreary football in the world. And you win a league, and you manage to draw one of the best sides in the competition, or one of the better sides in the competition. PSG aren't as good as people are making out, by the way. I'm sure they're not. I don't buy it. I watched them. Liverpool are rubbish. PSG are not amazing. They're decent. They've got a few good players. They're not winning it anyway.
If I'm honest, Liverpool in that second leg should have run away with it.
Yeah. PSG, everyone's going on about PSG. This is one of the best sides. PSG are not that good. They're not going. I mean, they might get past Villa because it's Villa. They've had a decent draw. They're not winning this competition. Not even close. So
I think they'd lose to Real Madrid, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
if they get past Arsenal.
Who's the draw then? Because it's Villa, PSG. Who did Real get then?
Arsenal, because it's already pre-drawn. It's like the World Cup where you know who you're going to play before you get to the final.
It's Arsenal, Real. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then it's Barcelona, Benfica.
I missed quite a bit of the Barcelona game because it glitched and it jumped to half time. So I missed 2 or 3 of the goals in the first half. But yeah, Barcelona look quite decent. They're not the Barcelona of all.
We will end up with a reasonable semi-final draw in the end. But
Bayern Munich look the real deal. They look like they're unstoppable.
They usually do, but they usually then come a cropper somewhere later down the line.
Very boring, but very, very efficient.
Very German.
Very German. I thought Villa, to be fair, you can't knock Villa, can you? I mean, they've got the European master at the top of the
Yeah,
the
Emery,
manager.
obviously good European football.
You would. It's a far stretch to say they'll win it, but he could mastermind a win over PSG, and they could just drop lucky. And you never know; they could be in a semi or a final.
Absolutely.
He's got the history for it, and he's got the past.
So I think we've done half an hour of this podcast, and we've managed to avoid the next elephant in the room, which I'm now going to trample on. Last week we discussed Thomas Tuchel would announce his first England squad, which he then did in due course on Friday morning, I believe. Yes, it was Friday morning. Yeah, thoughts, feelings.
I mean, it feels like I'm 22 again, and we've got Gareth Southgate coming back in. I mean, I'm not sure. Again, what's changed? Are we seem to have picked the same sort of team that Gareth. I mean, almost to me, it looks like Gareth Southgate's picked the team.
Except for we've now got Jordan Henderson back.
But
even Southgate wasn't picking him.
I mean, Gareth Southgate loved him until he buggered off to Saudi Arabia, and he decided they weren't allowed to pick him because they're out there. I mean, there's more questions than answers from that team. And I mean, I suppose in one hand, I've mellowed a little bit since Wednesday because I've tried not to look at it. And I suppose you've got to give him some games to see what he does. My concern is, what has he seen over the last, how long has he been in the job now? 6 months?
No, he only took over in January.
No, but he technically was given the job, weren't he? When was he given the job? October? November?
Something I genuinely don't know. It's a long time ago.
What I'm saying is he's been watching games in the capacity of England manager for potentially 6 months.
Yeah.
What has he seen Jordan Henderson do that's made him think, yeah, I've got to have him in my team? I mean, he's been playing for Ajax, I believe.
Yeah.
In the Dutch league, which
they're winning the Dutch league.
Generally classed as a subpar league. Most of the time when England players go abroad, you tend to damage your chances of being in the England squad because you can't watch it week in, week out. I just can't imagine how good Jordan Henderson's been. Thomas Tuchel to look at him and say, I've got to have him in my team.
My other bigger problem with it was we knew going into this first squad there's quite a lot of injuries in what would have been his probably perfect 23. So like we discussed last week, if you've got injuries, blood some young players, your World Cup's 18 months away, you've got time now to build.
That's what I haven't done, isn't it?
And you've picked Jordan Henderson, who's not the future. He'll be 36, I think, by the time the World Cup starts. So in all likelihood, he won't be there and shouldn't be there. So what is the benefit to picking him in the first qualifiers when you could pick a Gallagher, pick a Wharton, Gibbs White? You've got all these other players, and you've picked a man who's been in the England setup before. He's done it and failed. Let's make no bones about it. He was in the Iceland debacle in 2016. He's been in squads that have failed every time. So you're not bringing back a player that's going to pull up any trees. He's not going to win you a game. He's not going to run you a midfield. When you had the chance to go, here's a youngster, we've got time, we can bring him in, we're playing Albania, we're playing Latvia, he can get some minutes under his belt and get into the setup. What are we doing? What's the principle of going backwards in time? Why don't we get David Seaman in goal?
Well, he's done it across the board, hasn't he? Because he's picked 4 goalkeepers. Obviously, Jordan Pickford's going to play, so picking the other 3 goalkeepers is about as relevant as, what's the point of him being there? Poor fuckers. They're not going to play. He might get one of them off a game. So he's picked James Trafford as the 4th goalkeeper. For the purpose of what? Because the chances of the second goalkeeper playing are pretty damn slim. The chances of, which would be Aaron Ramsdale, so the chances of Dean Henderson getting any minutes at all is probably less than 1%. So what's Trafford going to do?
T-boy.
Is he going to wash the windows? Is he going to put the kit in the bag? He's going to do nothing. So why have we picked it? Why didn't he? If he's going to pick Trafford, great idea. I agree with picking him. Get him as your second goalkeeper and give him some time to play. We're playing a bunch of nobodies over the next 6 months. Get him in the team and say to him, right, Pickford's going to play the first game. As long as it goes to plan and we don't get beat by some random team, you can play the second game. He's not.
What I don't get is Why have we picked 4? Like you said the other week, having 2 goalkeepers on the bench.
Goalkeepers.
Why does England need 4 goalkeepers?
The chances of 2 of them playing in the next 2 games is very slim. He may swap the keepers round. So he may play Ramsdale for one and he may play Pickford for the other. But that's the best chance you've got. If Ramsdale gets injured, he'll bring Pickford on.
Yeah.
So the other 2 are there irrelevant. That's what I'm saying. Stratford should have been second goalkeeper, and then there should have been a kid that no one's ever heard of who was playing for probably Notts County, brought him in, let him see, get him into the mix for England as a future goalkeeper. Whoever the next best thing is, I don't know who he is. 3 goalkeepers, your main goalkeeper, the next guy who's really doing well at Burnley, he's kept so many
27 in 38.
And then bring a kid in who's not going to play, knows he's not going to play, but he's there for the experience and he gets used to it. We've picked 4 goalkeepers. The one that you actually think might be of use to you in the future, he's not even going to see the team, is he?
Unless Trafford is his number 2. Unless Trafford is the number 2.
But what? So Ramsdale and Henderson are 3 and 4?
It's
not going to happen,
don't know,
is
do
it?
we? No,
I
but
mean,
we
it's
don't
just
know.
not going to happen. And you go through the team and you just think, you took Kyle Walker. Okay. Why? He took Reece James. I mean, Reece James only plays 15 minutes a season. He's injured. He might as well put Luke Shaw in. It took the Kyle Walker. So are we telling me that in 18 months' time when we go to the World Cup, Kyle Walker's going to be our right back? They're claiming a pension by then.
This is what I mean.
And you're just going through and thinking, if he needs to put experience into people and say, well, you need young kids, you need experience, that's fine. But these people aren't going to be there when the World Cup starts. So that's irrelevant experience, isn't it? You need somebody in there who's going to mentor these people through the next 12, 14, 15 months, is going to be in the team to bring the young lads along. If we're saying that Jordan Henderson and Kyle Walker are going to the World Cup, we may as well not go.
Can we just not bother?
I ain't getting up at middle at night to watch a midfield that's Jordan Henderson and Declan Rice. I'm not doing it. Game over. That's just stupid. I just don't get it. I don't get where we've. I mean, I can't look at the team and think, well, I'll see what he's trying to do. It just honestly looks like Gareth Southgate's picked it with a German accent.
The problem we've got is, we discussed it last week and said, actually, on paper, the England squad is light. That's lighter than light. What he's picked, it's ranked poor.
Pale. It's as pale as that white on that Racing Bull car. It's just. I just don't understand. I just don't look at it and think, well, yeah. I mean, he's picked Solanke up front, who can't score. I mean, he's rubbish.
At least Watkins has got a few goals, but I think Watkins might be injured potentially.
So bring somebody else in then, because Solanke's not going to go to the World Cup as our striker. If we goes to the World Cup as our striker, we're knackered. So just discard him. He's not good enough. So bring somebody else on and try something else. Why is Marcus Rashford back in team? And this is not a hate campaign against Marcus Rashford. I do want him to do well, because if he's good, England have got an amazing player. What has he done at Villa to say that he gets back in the England team?
I don't think he's done anything. Tuchel's just come out and said he really, really likes him and really rates him and wants him there.
Oh, well, fantastic then. Games for the boys. That's what we need. I mean, that's exactly what we don't want, isn't it?
Yes.
Pick him on performance, not because he's your mate. It's just,
so basically,
we're
going into the next World Cup with Kyle Walker as right back, Jordan Henderson in midfield, and Dominic Solanke up front.
I mean, some of the others, Harry Kane, how old will he be? Jordan Pickford's not young, is he? Harry Kane's going to be knocking on. I mean, I just don't understand the thought process. It more worries me is when he sat down to look at the team, he's obviously thought, I need that player for.
Yeah.
I want to know what that answer is. What did he think when he put these players in? I need him in my team because he's going to be good at... And I can't think of it. I've had 5 days and I can't think of anything. I can't even think of a stupid answer to give. Never mind a legitimate one. It just... I don't know. I think I'm more upset now than when they actually employed Tuchel.
I mean, I can't even give him the grace of Henderson and Walker have got experience, because, like I said, Pickford has, Kane has, Gay was at the last tournament, Foden's done tournaments, 2 of now, and we've got to finals of. It's not like we need Henderson to bring this group of players.
Experience. Bellingham's playing at Real Madrid. Is that
exactly? That's what I mean. Yeah.
Declan Rice is a multi-cap winner now. We've got people in that team that have been in there for years and years. But the experienced players that he needs are injured. So why bring these lads in?
Don't
Do
know.
what? They've got 2 games. Are you telling me that we can't win these 2 games without Jordan Henderson around the team? Is he going to be the man, the catalyst to bring this team together and make us beat Azerbaijan? I mean, you know.
The only thing Jordan Henderson is the catalyst of is raising my blood pressure every time he gets on the football
they
pitch.
just don't need him there, do you? I mean, if you
No.
need somebody around the camp, just call Aaron Maguire up who's injured and just have him there.
Or Luke
Why
Shaw.
do you need to call Dean Henderson up? Call up anybody. If Dean Henderson's not going to play, call up an injured player. I don't get it.
I don't.
Makes no sense at all. And it's so disheartening to just look at it and think. And I know, like I said, I've got to give him a game. I've got to give him a couple of games. Maybe he pulls a tactical masterclass out, and we just think, "Wow, how good do we look?" I just look at it now and think, "Same old shit, isn't it?"
But surely he could have gone with Wanyeri from Arsenal. He's a young lad. Just give him a go.
You look at the team. You just want to look at it and think, "Wow, we're going to have a go here, aren't we?" I just look at it and think, "Well, games for the boys."
Because I mean, Spain and Germany did something very similar going back probably 15, 20 years. They realised their older crop of players were getting beyond their best and realised the current crop probably weren't at the level they needed. So they went, you know what? Let's cut it, kids. We'll rebuild and we'll start afresh.
Spain set up one of the tournaments, didn't they? A team, and you looked at it and thought, Jesus Christ, and they were poor. But 2 years later, they were damn good. And 4 years later, they were fantastic.
And then you look at Yamal, 17-year-old, brought a kid through, found him, played him, is now unbelievable.
Played him, put him in, played him. Didn't put him on bench to get used to it. Didn't bring him in so he got used to he found a good player and they got him in the team and they let him build up through the qualifying so that when he got to a tournament, he was a natural born player for Spain. He played from all over. What we'll do is 3 weeks before, we'll find the next superstar and throw him in like we did with Wayne Rooney and Michael Owen and all the others and expect him to win as a tournament after his 3rd cap.
With Jordan Henderson behind him. Which is just...
And me shortly behind Jordan Henderson with a sharp knife. I thought you were winding me up. I thought you'd pull... I had to Google it myself because I thought you'd found an old team off a team sheet website or something. When I saw it, I thought, it's got to be winding me up here, hasn't it? I just can't believe it.
The notification came on my phone and I looked at it 3 times and I was like, am I actually reading this by the way I think I am? But I was, and yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I just worries me the thought process he's gone through to get to some of the decisions he's got to. It just, I mean, 4 goalkeepers. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, we're going to have 2 on bench. I take it. There's some of the 2 on bench, won't they? That seems to be
all 3 of them.
New fashionable thing to do, isn't it? We can bring on one at left back and other one at, brings oranges on.
Could bring one in central midfield instead of Jordan Henderson.
He'd be better off playing Trafford in midfield than him. How has he got in? I mean, he must be laughing, isn't he?
I just don't.
He's just, one of them guys how many caps has he got?
A lot. Far more than he should have.
I mean, we had the displeasure of watching him in the Premier League for 10 years. And never once did I think, you know what? I'm wrong about him.
No, I've never thought I've been wrong about him. Nobody will ever convince me I'm wrong about him. I don't believe anybody who says a good word about him. It's just...
even Liverpool fans didn't like him. It's like...
he replaced the greatest captain they probably ever had to be captain, and it was just such a downgrade.
What an insult Steven Gerrard replaced with Jordan Henderson, who can do none of the things you could do. None of them.
No.
Got the same colour hair. It's about as likeness, and they're both English. That's about as close as he gets to him, doesn't he? Yeah.
But anyway, before we tear apart Thomas Tuchel and his ridiculous England team anymore, today is the first cup final of the season. How do we see that going? Liverpool take on Newcastle at Wembley at 4:30 this afternoon.
I mean, you can't see past Liverpool, can you? They're just... I want to say they're too good. Obviously, they messed up against PSG, didn't they? I just can't see Newcastle having enough to... There'd have to be something happen in the game, a red card or a dodgy refereeing decision to go Newcastle's way, I think.
You say that, but then you look at the FA Cup final last season. You'd have said there's no chance in hell Man United can beat Manchester City. It's a
I
cakewalk.
still to that now, and I know the result. If I put it back on now and replay, I'd still say Man City are going to win, and I know they don't. So,
this is the thing.
yeah,
because
but
it's a cup final, it's a one-off game.
you're still going to think the same, I think, aren't you? I can't sit here legitimately and say I can make a case for Newcastle winning it. I just can't see them beating Liverpool. They may well do it, and I do hope they do it because I think it's what the League Cup is all about, isn't it? Somebody winning it that's not Man U, Liverpool, Arsenal. Newcastle or Spurs winning it would be, as a neutral perspective, if your team can't win it, would be brilliant because
I was hoping for a Newcastle Tottenham
imagine
final.
how much that will do for Newcastle as a club and their fans travelling down, and what a day that'd be if they can come back with a trophy. I mean, when last time they won a trophy? I bet I wasn't even born, were I? I'm freaking old.
Yeah, 70 years ago.
70?
Yes.
Wow. I was
They
thinking
did
more like
once win the
41.
Intertoto Cup,
It's not
early
true.
2000s, but it was actually a certificate by then and not even a cup.
Sounds right. Yeah, I think for Newcastle to win it, it would be great for the game and great for the club and everyone that's, even great for Eddie Howe. He's English at the end of the day, isn't he? If England have aspirations of doing something in the future and the German's done, he's probably going to be one they look at, isn't he? So it'd be great for him.
I mean, if only he was around when we were looking for a new manager a few months ago.
Imagine having an English manager that's doing quite well at a club. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't look at him and think, oh, wow, he's the next Pep Guardiola. But at least he's decent and he's English. I mean, we've still got Dan Burn, wouldn't we? So not want to help that. But
we don't have any other left backs currently because the one at your place is crocked permanently.
I've got 4 goalkeepers. Can't play one of them. Surely one of them can play. Are we telling me that the only left back we can find in England, the whole freaking country, the home of football, is Dan Burn?
Well, there was Ben Chilwell, so we're lucky you didn't pick him.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I just don't. Do you think Brazil have looked at that and thought, shit, World Cup 2026, we're shit creek here, lads. We're going to have to train hard to beat these. How are we going to get past Kyle Walker, Dan Burn, and Jordan Henderson with Harry Kane up front? Like a mobility team, isn't it? Like over,
to be fair,
over 45s coming to town.
Brazil did pick Richarlison for a while, so they're not immune to this.
Even he'd get in our team. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Oh dear.
We
were meant to be moving on from England.
Let's move on. Yeah, did we get back to that? Oh, we got into the League Cup. Yeah, Liverpool win the League Cup.
This is so professional.
That's it. I've given you my summary. Is there a game on next? Does Arsenal Chelsea on early?
Arsenal Chelsea's on at 1:30.
It's some great games today, isn't there?
It's been will be a fantastic day of sport.
Arsenal Chelsea, Rangers Celtic, Sheffield Wednesday Sheffield United, and Man United Leicester. Unfortunately, Tottenham play as well. I just don't know who they play. Is it Brentford? No, it can't be Brentford. Fulham.
Yes.
That's not London, though. Yeah, great day of sport, which started very early, didn't it?
It did. Nicely done. It did. It started at. Well, it was supposed to start at 4 a.m., but half an hour later we'd done half a corner because all of the children that have joined the sport couldn't keep the car on the island and they were in a hedge.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be fair to them, they raced in the one country in the world where you're guaranteed not to get rain, and it absolutely pissed it down. I mean, the poor lads who started their F1 career thinking at least it'll be dry. And it was like a monsoon about 2 hours before the race. I mean, every race I watched got cancelled. I watched V8 Supercars, which has been very good this weekend. They didn't even start. Started behind the safety car, red flagged it behind the safety car, started behind the safety car, called the race off. F3 did start, I think. Didn't do very far. And F2 did start, but cancelled that, I think, as well. So there was no real racing. Maybe half a dozen laps between the three. And yeah, it didn't look good to start with.
In fact, when you look at all of the rookies, so they've gone to Bahrain to do testing. It rained there for them in the desert. They've gone to Australia for the hottest places on earth.
Can you imagine going to Bahrain in Australia and getting rain twice? I mean, it only rains twice a year in them two places, and it's the 2 days they've been there. Yeah, they've had a they've had an absolutely horrible day, haven't they? I mean, the
Yeah.
only one that's not had a shock. I mean, Behrman had a shocker yesterday because he rolled the car off
On Friday.
twice.
He wrote it off on Friday and Saturday.
Lawson, I mean, Red Bull are very good at picking bad drivers for that car, aren't they? I mean, he looks absolutely garbage. I mean, when he wasn't crashing, he got some clear running and he looked absolutely rubbish.
At one point, when he was in clean air, he was 3 seconds a lap slower than Max.
He was so slow and he seemed to miss all the corners. I mean, I can imagine it's not as easy as it looks, obviously, but he just didn't seem to make any of the corners at all. He was constantly on the grass, in the gravel. He just, like, the corner's there, mate. What are you doing? Yeah, I mean, Lawson was shocking. I think he was probably the worst of the lot. I don't think Lawson particularly got unlucky. I just think he was untalented.
I mean,
Lance just
Hadjar dropped it on the formation lap. Bortoletto dropped it late on. Lawson just didn't drive. Behrman
crashed a lot.
crashed a lot, and I can't even remember if he made it to the end or not. I think he did a lap down.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, he did, I think, didn't he?
Antonelli did very well.
That is the only one, isn't he? I mean, his car collapsed, but I don't think he caused that by doing anything particularly amateurish. I think it was just maybe a curvy
he wasn't
hit.
particularly quick, I don't think, but he just didn't crash, which on a weekend...
decent in the qualify. I mean, he didn't get through, did he? But it wasn't particularly his fault, the car fell back. He looked okay. First race, he's not going to be... You know, you look at how Hamilton struggled in the Ferrari, and he's a veteran of the sport, isn't he? So they're going to struggle. He at least looked like he knew how to get a car around the track. Whereas the others kind of looked like they'd been picked to drive yesterday, didn't they? It kind of was like, when you've been called up overnight, you're like, oh shit, and don't really know what I'm doing. Yes, some of it did look quite amateurish. And it's a shame because it will have, I mean, was it Hadjar that was crying when he came off?
Well, we don't know if he was crying, but I believe he was, yeah.
If you crashed on a formation lap, you deserve to be. I mean, you're up there with Lance Stroll now, aren't you? Although Carlos Sainz also crashed on a formation lap.
Yeah, he crashed behind safety car. And
I mean, I've had that 2 arguments today. Both people telling me that the 2 best drivers on the track one was somebody telling me Carlos Sainz was one of the most underrated drivers on the thing. And the other guy told me that Lance Stroll, if I look at his numbers, stacks up as one of the best men on the grid.
Which numbers are they?
Well, I did reply, and it's something to do with Formula 2 or Formula 3. And I was like, is that relevant to this?
I mean, if anybody wants to use Lance Stroll's junior career as a marker for anything, they don't
even know he'd had a junior career. The argument stopped then because I was out of facts.
So his dad made sure he got the best car. His dad handpicked his teammates in nearly every formula he did to make him look good. So anybody using Lance Stroll's junior career to justify where he is either ignoring the facts or doesn't know them. His dad's a multi-billionaire and paid for him to have the best surroundings. He got the best of any car in any series that he drove in. He made sure he got the worst teammate that he could possibly have to make sure Lance looked good. Lance has now gone into Formula One and is basically a donkey sat in a car. He isn't good enough. He's only there because he's rich.
If I look at the points he scored, I was like, I didn't know he'd scored any points. He didn't usually finish. Can't imagine.
But look at the points he scored. Fernando Alonso could have stopped driving in Japan last year and beaten him. Japan was the 4th race.
Dear. Social media gives idiots a voice. That's the problem.
Fernando could have sat on a beach for 9 months and beaten him.
Yeah. So the rookies haven't done well, and Carlos Sainz has had a mare on it, to be fair.
Well, he claimed there was a power surge from the engine, which I just think was his right foot.
Well, there will be if you stand on loud pedal, you moron.
It just sounded like the most driver excuse ever.
It's not an electric car. It's not, they plugged it into wrong voltage circuit. I mean, it got a power surge because he put his foot on pedal too hard and spun it.
Yeah, that's what it was to me anyway. But I think there's some very good drives today as well. I think Alex Albon's done a great job. I mean,
I put Albon down as driver of the day because I thought that was. I mean, he's lost that position again, hasn't he? Antonelli's got his position back.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, he held Lewis up for a long time, and then he kept it on the road.
I
It
mean,
was
I spoke
clean.
to
It was
him and I
tidy.
said, it'd been ideal if something had happened to one of them at the front, Max, and Albon had got on the podium, because he deserved that, I think. For the whole
Yeah.
weekend, Science has come into his team and hasn't outshone him, hasn't outclassed him early on.
No.
I know it's early on. And to be fair to him, he's kept his nose clean in a very tricky race, and did really well, really, really well. Like I say, Antonelli did quite well in the race, to be fair to him, as a total rookie. I mean, some of them conditions were dicey as hell, weren't they? I mean,
Oh yeah,
Max
absolutely.
Verstappen went off and found some rather large puddles. So anyone who stayed on the track, I mean, Antonelli did spin, didn't he, at turn 4?
Yes,
turn 5?
yeah, he did. Yeah,
They got a bit lucky there, but yeah, they've done well. Anyone who's got around there without going. I mean, Norris went off, Oscar went off twice, came back on, went back off again. Max was off. Leclerc span, didn't he?
Yep.
He span. Not many of the drivers that haven't been. I mean, Alonso's missing a few wheels. I mean, it's a miracle.
Yeah, he's in a hedge.
Not Lance Stroll, but Alonso's bent this one. I can't think of many people. Is Hamilton the only one who didn't go off?
Hamilton didn't, and I don't think George Russell did, because I actually forgot he was there.
You know something? I wrote down. I only write it on my notes here. Is George Russell the most boring driver in the world? Just not involved in anything, was he? He wasn't involved in a crash. I don't even think he pitted. I think he just went round unnoticed. He didn't overtake anybody.
Nope.
He didn't get overtaken.
Nope.
He must be the most like Jordan Henderson style driver in the world. It's just like nothing happened, did it, for him? And yeah, it's like, how have you been in that race and nothing's happened? He didn't have an argument on the. I mean, Hamilton was arguing on the radio. People crashing. People were pitting wrong. People on the grass in puddles. George Russell just drove around. Did he finish third? He was uneventful third in the world.
In one of the most eventful races.
And I thought, what are they interviewing him for? Where did he finish? And it turned out he was third. And I'm like, well, fuck me. And now this has happened.
The other bit I found funny, though, watching it, though, is how long is it before Lewis Hamilton gets out and punches somebody on the Ferrari pit wall?
Oh, my God. That exchange was absolutely brilliant with Leclerc, wasn't it? Oh, my God. The seat's wet. What do you mean? Well, the seat's full of water. Yeah, it must be that water. What do you mean? Because it's water. Hey, what did he say to him? Thank you for the great insight. I mean,
he said, we'll put that in the Hall of Fame or something. I mean, we just...
Where does he... Well, I mean, it's not like it was a miscommunication, because he's worked with Leclerc for 3 years now, whatever it's been.
It's probably more.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, my seat's filling with water. Yeah, that'll be the water. Yeah, I just told you that. Thanks.
Oh, dear. I mean, they're just the gift that keeps on giving, aren't they?
Oh,
I understand you have to give drivers feedback, but he was literally coaching Hamilton around the track like he was Behrman. He was like, the guy knows how to drive the car. Just let him drive it and let him know if he's doing anything majorly wrong. I mean, he's saying to press button 11 and strat this and
K1 and...
Shut up, man.
But the bit that got me was, Lewis said, I get it, leave me alone. And the guy went, understood, and carried on talking. I'm like, shut up, just shut up.
Understood, yeah, carried on. Oh, my God. Yeah, it was Ferrari just, I mean, it's only race one and it rained and setups have been all over, but they are way off the pace at the moment, aren't they?
But my bigger issue is there, you've just hit the head. It rained, so Ferrari went, stay out on hards. No!
That's what they do, isn't it? I mean, just hit him and put it. I don't understand this like guessing game. It's raining, put wet tyres on. It's not raining, don't put them on. I know there's a bit of a timing issue.
Yeah.
But there were cars going off left, right, and centre, and they told him to stay out. I mean, I don't need. As soon as the McLaren went off, everyone should have gone in the pits.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised Max stayed out. That was a bad call
for them. 2 laps as well.
On the thing. But as soon as them 2 McLarens went off, it's just a case. I mean, it happened in Germany all them years ago, didn't it? When Vettel hit a wall and then his career vanished from there. It's the same. Just go in the pits and put the tyres on you need. It's just absolute, just travesty, weren't it? I mean,
staying
out.
Martin Brundle's always said it. It's F1 is all about being on the right tyres at the right time. If you have to
Right.
pit 6 times because it's the right thing to pit 6 times because of the tyres, then you do it.
Yeah, because
Don't
if you
winging it
the
and
amount of
guessing.
time you lose by tips, I mean, how much did Vettel lose in them 3 corners? I mean, he flew around and got to the end, the last 3 corners, he literally were doing 50, 60 mile an hour getting around the corners. If you lost 15, 20 seconds, that's 1 pit stop in 1 lap. You've got your pit stop
Yeah,
by being on the
exactly.
right tyre. It's just a no-brainer. As soon as the track is damp, just get in the pits and put the tyres on. I mean, I'm surprised
Yeah.
Ferrari normally overpit, don't they? They normally pit for wet weather tyres and then pit for dries and then pit back for wet. They didn't pit at all today. It was just, yeah.
That's because they've listened to you, because historically you've said the less Ferrari touch the car, the better.
Well, they did both finish in my defence, so that is probably a good thing what they did. But they finished so far down. I mean, they got beat by everybody.
They got beaten by a green wheelie bin
Who?
in the Sauber. Hulk. Nico
What, he
Hulkenberg
beat?
finished 7th.
Who
Leclerc
finished
8th.
below?
Lewis 10th. They
Oh, was
both
it that
finished
far
below.
down? I thought there was
Yeah.
7th and 8th. So I don't know what I've missed that.
8th and 10th.
Hulkenberg beat him.
Have you not seen Piastri's pass on the last lap on the round around the
Oh,
outside
yeah.
of Lewis?
On the
Yeah, so
outside of Hamilton, I have.
that puts Lewis 10th.
That is a pass. That, I mean, to be fair to Oscar, he's got some cojones.
Well, this is what we said previously. Like Baku last year, he puts that move on Charles at turn 1 that other people probably don't make, and that move that's not even a move that you can do.
We said it at the time. That's the move of a future champion, and just racing like that today, because he's gone and got himself a point when everyone else had just settled for it's been a bad weekend. You don't know what that point will do at the end of the season. Probably nothing, but
a lot of them probably just left in the grass where he was.
Yeah, it does certain things that you just look at and think there's not many people you see in Formula One that make them moves at that age, at that time of a race, in them conditions. He's definitely got something. Like I say, if they both get the same car, Lando's got a fight in his hand. Really has got a fight in his hands because the guy's quick. And he was quick in the race, wasn't he, at certain points? I know they asked him to maintain status quo while they were overtaking various things, but it was quick.
Yeah, McLaren have got a lot of hate for that already, but I think people have misunderstood what that call was about.
And the timing, because the radio's delayed.
It's tricky conditions. You don't want them running into each other.
No.
The chances are before the chaos, they were about to pit for dry tyres, so they don't want them to start messing about, losing time, taking each other off when it could all just go wrong. The team's got to think, and then a few laps later, once it cleared up, they said, right, you can race. They knew they then got the gap they needed for where they would, if they had to pit. It's not a thing about favouring Lando. It's about not putting them both in a hedge.
Yeah, keeping your cars as they are so that they're not doing... I mean, 2 cars fighting in the same team only ends 2 ways. You either slow each other down or you end up in a hedge together, don't you?
Yeah.
You don't... There's no benefit to it.
Nope.
So you've just got to realistically... I mean, it's a good job they did as well, because didn't Lando win by about 2/10 in the end?
0.8 of a second in the end. So if they'd have lost a couple of seconds,
it's game over. So it all counts. But people are going to look at it that way, aren't they?
And let's bear in mind, it's race 1 of the season. That won't decide the Drivers' World Championship.
No, I mean, Ferrari won it last year.
But it wasn't race 1, but Max won race 1 last year. Ferrari, Australia wasn't race 1 last year. It was Bahrain, as it normally is.
Oh, right, yeah.
But yeah, I think, but as a season opener, it went on for 2 hours longer than it probably should have done, but it was a very entertaining race.
It was chaotic, wasn't it? That's the word I've been using a lot today. It was
chaotic. The bit that annoyed me, and I don't know if it's just the design of the track that makes it this way, the safety cars lasted far too long. Getting cars out of the way took forever.
We discussed this, didn't it? It just doesn't work in that sense, does it? I mean, does it happen this at other street tracks?
Canada can be quite difficult to move tracks, but they do have the odd crane knocking about. Australia, just with the way it's designed, they can't seem to get the mobile cranes in that lift the cars out reasonably quickly.
I mean, they were going on about men on track and cars on track and vehicles on track and the dangers of it, but what can you do? I mean, but they've done like 3 laps on the safety car and they panned back to Alonso's car and it was still in the same spot. And I'm thinking, how many laps did we do that safety car today? 15?
Probably 20, I don't know, 15, something like that.
Just, it's a lot of a race for not a lot to have happened in the sense of most of those would have been pushed away within a lap, maybe 2, and it seemed to be 4, 5, 6 laps. Just
there was a lot of
following it.
people calling for red flags, but I don't think that's the solution to the
No.
problem. Because that artificially changes the race. You get standing starts, which people can mess up. People change the tyres. I just think the solution is you've got to find better ways of moving the cars quicker. I really
Yeah,
do.
I mean, it is quite specific, like I said, to that track.
Yeah.
And had it not rained, which don't forecast rain very often in Australia this time of year, it kind of all just conspired against them to make it a little bit chaotic, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well and truly chaotic.
Yeah, had it been a dry race, 90% of them accidents don't happen because
No, that's true.
you know they were just because of the conditions. Most of them, there will have been one idiot crash probably on Stroll, but it just didn't. Everything just seemed to go against the event, really, didn't it? To make it absolutely chaotic. I mean, there's people sat in stands in t-shirts and it's absolutely lashing it down, and they're thinking, "What the hell's gone on here?"
But luckily, we now move on to China, and the forecast for there is dry, so we should get an actual clear picture of who's where
That
in
is
the
next
pecking order.
weekend, isn't it?
Yes, so next weekend, 7 a.m. for me. There is a sprint as well, unfortunately.
We're only second week and we're ruining shit again. So next weekend, it's a sprint weekend and England play.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Just what we need.
Yep.
Well, one person who might not be there will be Helmut Marko, because if Bortoletto gets hold of him and wrings his neck, calling him...
Oh, yeah, calling him a C-class driver or something?
Driver or C-class driver? Who is this man?
A very annoying, opinionated old man that I don't pay attention to.
Somebody who's done not even a race yet in the sport.
Yeah, and it's quite funny though, because didn't Bortoletto actually qualify ahead of Lawson in the end yesterday?
Yeah, I don't know who he is, but he needs to shut his trap. Is he the Red Bull guy? Is that who he is?
Yeah, he's the Red Bull Junior Program Director or some nonsense of a job. He's just an annoying old man and a bitter old man.
Seems that way, doesn't it? And isn't it amazing how engineers can predict the weather down to the lap? But yeah, if you watch the weather on your local TV station, they can't tell you if it's going to rain in the next fucking 48 days. Why don't weather people companies employ these engineers to tell them weather? Because it's a lot more accurate than our weather forecast ever been.
They do just use better equipment, and they also just have a man stood out.
Actual weather people. I mean, it's their only job is to bring us the weather. The only thing they don't do is ever get it right. And yet you can tell you what corner it's going to rain at and at what time.
Because they'll have spotters out and about. So within sort of 5 to 10 miles of the track, they'll have spotters where the weather's coming from, and they'll say, right, it's now raining here. It'll be with you in X amount of time. So they have spotters.
BBC have got enough people to pop a couple of spotters out and get weather right once in a while. Jesus, guy, it just amazes me. I can tell him it's going to rain for 3 minutes at turn 5.
And the intensity.
BBC weather can't tell me if sun's going to come out anytime in next month. It's fantastic.
Oh, dear. But I think on that note,
how's the season going to go then now?
I'm going to do something I don't do, and I'm going to sit on the fence here. For the simple reason, I don't think you can read anything into today. The conditions are too mixed up. The race is too mixed up. I know there's people saying that McLaren were running clear, but Max had burnt up them intermediates chasing in the first place. I can't. I personally don't think there's anything definitive to take out of today's race in terms of who's where.
What's China going to? Who wins at China normally?
China will show us a lot more if it's dry, but again,
I can't think of the China. Oh, China's the one with the big
long back straight.
Yes.
The problem with China is
the hairpin and the straight up to the top.
Being a sprint, then again, not a normal weekend. They get less time to set up the car. In theory, looking at it, that hinders Red Bull because it's taking them a while to get the setup right.
And it were doing last season, wasn't it? Taking them a while. They were almost last minute, just dialing it in Fridays and Saturday mornings.
I think we've got to get past these first 2 races and then move on to Japan. I think if the pecking order after China matches roughly to Japan, you've then got a reasonable set of data that says you can say that this is starting to be how it looks. But with Australia being wet and China being a sprint, the difficult weekends to then base everything on. But I think Japan's the first weekend where you can really, really say X is fast, Y is slow,
I think
and build it from
one
there.
thing we can definitely say today that we couldn't have said 12 months ago is Red Bull are not clearly out front.
No, I think they're clearly second right now. But again, I'm saying that based on what I've seen today.
Massive. Even if Red Bull is still technically fastest, it's nip and tuck between them and McLaren. 12 months ago, it was a chasm, wasn't it? I mean, it was not even debatable. I mean, McLaren went close.
If I'm honest, right now, I don't think it's even debatable. I think McLaren is the quicker car right now.
Yeah, I do.
think
I definitely do.
But
I think
what I'm not
just
sure
a fundamentally better car as well. It just seems suited to all situations.
Who is where beyond that? Are Ferrari really that bad? Did the weekend just not suit them? Is Mercedes really now pushing to be on the podium on a weekly basis? I'm not convinced.
I mean, if Mercedes had a world-class driver, which they don't, they'd have been a lot closer, I think.
I don't know. I think George Russell's a very, very competent driver, and I think he had a very good season last season.
I don't think he's elite. He's not Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, Michael Schumacher. He's not going to be in that bracket, and that gives you an extra, maybe only a tenth a lap. It just gives you something, doesn't it, to put you in that situation. You put Max in that car, it'd have been further forward in the race today.
Probably.
It'd have done something different, as I'm saying. There's only so far the car can take you, but the driver's got to give you that extra 10%. I think that's where Mercedes will probably stumble a bit this season.
Yeah. But my early prediction of Max winning the World Championship and Red Bull being fourth looks possible if Lawson's going to be 4 seconds a lap slower than everybody else the whole season.
I mean, he's not. They talked about who not finishing the season, or were they talking about getting sacked already? Was it Doohan?
Yeah.
I mean, there could be a few before him, couldn't there?
Doohan and Lawson are in trouble if they don't pick things up quickly, because Red Bull won't be particularly patient. And what might end up being quite funny, though, is if they end up then crawling back to Yuki Tsunoda and saying, please drive our car, because you're actually quite good and we should have done this a while ago.
Or going to Sergio Perez and saying, actually, you weren't as bad as you look because the others are absolutely shite.
Or they bring in Bottas.
Do you know what? I just took the words out of my mouth. I thought, who's sat there doing nothing? It would be miles better than any of them would be Valtteri Bottas.
It'd be a safe, secure pair of hands.
Exactly. It would get them enough points to compete as a unit, wouldn't it?
He's not going to come in and upset Max and challenge him, but he will do a good job.
And he isn't, once again, he isn't at that level, is he? He's not an elite driver. Like the German who won the title in Lewis Hamilton's team was.
Nico Rosberg.
Yeah, he wasn't. But it would come in and get you 7, 8, 12 points a race and just keep you ticking along, whereas the others don't, do they? They're just too hit and miss.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that should have been the way they should have gone. But I think on that note, I'm going to go and stand in a field and predict the weather for the BBC.
Well, somebody should. I know an engineer that builds cars that can do it better than them. He can tell you what street it's going to rain on first.
And I shall avoid that street while I'm studying my field. Right, I think that is the end of another episode for us. So we shall see you all very soon.
Goodbye. See you later.